what's up, fam? Welcome back to the Two Goat Show. We're your hosts, Miriah and Steph, and today we're joined by a very special guest. Let me get it out here, Coach Desi. The wonderful Coach Desi, I should say. Ladies, how you guys doing? How you feeling? Happy Friday. We're here on a
Yeah.
Friday. Happy Friday.
T minus 9 days. Whoop whoop.
Oof, it's approaching. It's approaching quick, but I'm feeling good. Desi, I mean, I'm sure you're feeling good as well. Just leading up to this game, we're getting ladybug tattoos after the 49ers win, so we
Yes.
feeling great.
Which, by the way, I may fly out west and like literally make it a thing. So, fun fact, my
Yeah.
mom already has a ladybug tattoo. So her nickname is
Wow.
Bug, and she lost a bet to my brother years ago. So she got a ladybug right here on her shoulder. So it's so ironic. So I'm like, of course I've got to get a ladybug tattoo now. So it's just gonna mean so much more.
That's
Right.
amazing. I love that. So then it'll be for your mom and it'll be for the whole ladybugs taking over the 49er faithful now.
Yes, it's a whole
Shout
thing.
out to Brandon Ayuk. Yeah, ladybugs everything now. Like there's being merch, created with ladybugs. One of the faithful ladies on Twitter, X, whatever, she made she bought a lot of these like little ladybug things that she made little ladybug pins out of. And so she made a post and was like, if anybody wants one, DM me your address and I'll send them out this week. I'm like, hell yeah, I want one. So she's gonna send me one of those. So I told my wife she can wear it for the game.
You need to get me
um,
one too. Do you see the Gold Rush? They all had them on as
yeah.
well.
hmm
Oh, that's cute.
The
That's
ladybugs
awesome.
are taking over.
How
So,
random. How random. And the ladybug has red in it, right? Like,
yep,
I don't know.
perfect colors.
It is perfect.
Good omen.
Before we get started into anything, and I should have done this last week, and I was just so excited to talk to you ladies that I just skipped through it, and then I watched through the whole show, everybody asking who Coach Desi is. So we're gonna start off the show today for those that weren't here last week that maybe don't know who Coach Desi is. Please let us know who is Coach Desi, where they can find you at, and all that good stuff before we get started, please.
So, I am a physician assistant. I've been practicing medicine for over 20 years, but I've been a lifelong 49er fan. So, I've just been able to morph both things, both of my passions together. And I'm self proclaimed sports injury analyst. So, I take a look and watch injuries happen and try to explain to people what that means and how the injury occurred and just kind of make it like an educational aspect so people can learn about their bodies and also how it implies what that means for the team and the game that's coming up. And thankfully, I have not been utilized as much this year as years past. So this has been a phenomenal year for the 49ers. And it's no surprise we're in the situation we're in because of it.
There you have it. And then I usually have it in the description box, but I didn't know that Coach Desi was coming on with us when I made this video, so the link is not there. But once we end the show, I will go back and edit and put the link to all of Coach Desi's info, so you guys can go to the description box and just click that info and be directed right to her. All right, so first, you know how we do. We'll start off with a couple injury questions that we have for you, and then we'll get into everything else. Um, Pretty much the only two things that, luckily, that the 49ers, kind of have on the injury news is Kittle coming out of the game, and it's just listed as a toe. Shanahan, when he's questioned about it, I think he just plays stupid. I think he really knows a lot more than he plays off that he does, but he acts like he doesn't know anything. But I'm sure if it was, like a turf toe, that they would kind of let that be known. He was asked if it was, and he was just like, no, it's just a toe. Where do you think about the whole Kittle situation? Like you said, we have what, 9 days to go before we play. Um, where do you think we are with that, with Kittle's toe?
This is a stumper. I have no idea. Like, I don't even know which toe it is. Like, I would think that it's got to be the big toe just because 90% of the body's weight is on that big toe, and it's got to be something like that would actually take him out of practice. Everything else you can buddy tape and you can kind of power through. So I've got to guess that it's the big toe. I don't know if it could be an ingrown toenail. Like I have no idea what we're dealing with. So I really can't give any kind of insight, but I can promise you the way that Kittle is built and wired, there is no way he's missing this game, and they will do whatever it takes to tape that baby up, pop whatever medication they need to, and get that man out on the field. So,
yeah. Kittle's like famous line now from the last Super Bowl was the whole, I will be back here. I will be back with a mother effing vengeance. So I highly doubt Kittle's going to miss the Super Bowl with a toe.
Yeah, that's not happening. It's not happening.
So yeah, I think we're good on that front. And yes, Steph is a celebrity. We will get to that right after these injury things. I promise we're going to get to it. The last really injury thing that we have is Kalia Davis. I had asked you last week if you thought that he would be activated, in time to play in the Lions game. And you had said that you thought, it was a long shot for him to make it, in order to play for that game. You were right. He wasn't activated. Well, now we have 2 weeks. He has been practicing. He has been listed as a full participant. Do you think in time for the Super Bowl that we will get reinforcements and hopefully some run defense in the form of Kalia Davis?
I believe so. This is why I think they just held it close. And now that he's full practice, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't rotate that in. We need all hands on deck. This is the Chiefs. We need every single person available. And again, thankfully, we're in that situation where if you look at the injury list right now, ours compared to Kansas City, we're in a very good situation in that regard.
Yep.
And in fact, that could be a key to victory for sure.
Yeah, for me, I think I mentioned last week, like with the help they need in the run defense, like Kalia Davis would definitely be a huge help for that team. He didn't get activated ahead of that game, but they still struggled against the run. They tried to put Eric Armstead on the end a couple of times. And so clearly that shows that they're looking for answers. They're looking to see what works. And if we continue to see the same things, they have to continue searching for answers. Kalia Davis may give them even more flexibility for Eric Armstead to line up on the outside. And I saw like rumors or like, I didn't see it from a reputable source, but just someone saying like they're thinking of benching.
We're going to get to that.
Chase Young. Okay. Let me forget I said it. Word vomit. But yeah, if I don't know if that's true. That's all I'll say.
I know, yeah.
I don't think it's really true, but it wouldn't surprise me either because, like Desi said, this is a Super Bowl. This is the one game you need everything to go right, and so you can't really risk having any holes in that run defense. Isaiah Pacheco is a very capable, very hard runner. So, you need all hands on deck for this.
Yep. Crossing my fingers that we'll get the big guy back and hopefully he can stop some run because, man, it's been terrible. All right. As if you've kind of been locked in the closet for the last couple hours and you don't know, and you see it all through the chat, GM John Lynch gave his, Super Bowl press conference today. And during that, one of the questions he was asked was about Nick Bosa's giving his pregame, weekly speech on Saturdays to the team. And while John is talking about it, he says, if you guys want to know what Bosa, looks like pretty much while he's doing it, why don't you guys go check out Steph Sanchez's impersonation she does of Nick Bosa because they're spot on, and that's pretty much what he looks like while he's giving his speeches. So, Steph, shout out to you. I already knew you were the GOAT. Now more people are about to find out. How did you were you watching it? Like, how did you find out? Was it
Dude.
everybody saying, like, give me your whole thoughts on the whole thing? Let us know.
Oh, I was literally in a meeting, like a work meeting, in a one-on-one. But assuming that I don't have any work colleagues here, I sometimes check Twitter while I'm in meetings. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, and I see my Twitter blow up, and I have hella notifications, and I'm like, okay, I wonder what's going on. And I see the post. I see David Lombardi's tweet was the first one that I saw. How John Lynch specifically like named me. I'm like, what the hell? I immediately closed Twitter because I'm like, oh wow, that just happened. And then I also like immediately sent it to my family, and I was like, oh, look what happened. I get stoked for those moments to just share with my family and see what cool thing happened. But yeah, I mean, I've gained probably over 100 followers on Instagram and Twitter since then. And, people are still following. People are on Instagram. Everyone's checking out, the impersonations. It's a little easier to find through my reels. But yeah, it's crazy. It's surreal. I already knew that, John had watched them before because if you guys recall the Combine last year, I met him. I should say he met me because he already knew who I was. I was going up to introduce myself, and he was like, "Oh, Steph." Like, I was like, "What is happening?" Even then, so I knew he already knew of it. He recorded me like doing the impersonation so he can send it to Nick. So somewhere on his phone, he has a video of me, assuming he hasn't changed his phone or anything. The video of me doing the impersonation, sent it to Nick. But I need to know what Nick thinks, right? Like that's the one thing missing. Like I already knew John liked it. I wasn't expecting a shout out, a week away from the Super Bowl. Like that's pretty crazy. But I would love if someone asked Nick, like if you've seen the video as well.
He had to have.
Oh, he has.
Yeah.
Yeah, if John's holding it on his phone for that,
there's no way. Yeah.
I just need to know what he thinks. Like I'm sure he has seen him. And actually, the one I posted last week before the NFC Championship game, Kyle Juszczyk, or it might have been the week before that, the divisional round one. Kyle Juszczyk liked one of them as well. So like I know it's been a thing within the locker room. Like some of the guys have seen it. It's just, yeah, I need to hear from the source directly.
I love it.
You should maybe quote tweet Lombardi when he shared it and say that, like, hey, now I need one of you guys to ask Nick Bosa what he thinks of it, and that way it gets into he's there right on the spot.
So shout out Rob, because Rob is going to be credentialed for the Super Bowl.
Oh,
he's going to be out there. And I didn't ask him to ask Nick, but I was like, I need to know like what Nick thinks. And he's like, I'm going to ask him.
There you go. Okay.
I think we will get our answer in about a week's time, what Nick thinks. And man, my dream is to eventually do like a video with him, but we'll see.
That'd be amazing. So when you get your ladybug tattoo, you got to get the 97
inside the inside the ladybug wings.
Yeah.
A lot of symbolism.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome. I had been like listening to it, and as soon as I heard him say it, like I stopped the presser, right? And I open up Twitter, X, whatever, and I'm going to, say something to Steph about it. And the first tweet I see is Steph's tweet saying like something like, what's going on or something, and I'm like, oh, okay, perfect. So I just quote tweeted that, I'm like, I didn't have to even put out a tweet because it was already waiting there for me.
Yeah, as soon as I got out of that meeting, I just like went back to Twitter and I was like, so what's going on, guys? It's crazy. Yeah, crazy.
It is awesome.
I just finished with some patience and went on Twitter, and I think I saw your tweet, Miriah, and I was like, what? So then I immediately went to the presser because obviously I wasn't able to watch it, and I watched it on the way home, and I was like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, lots of love for Steph in the chat. She deserves it. It's about
Thank
time.
you, guys.
Make sure if you guys are not subscribed to her channel that you hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on my channel and for some reason you're not subscribed to Steph's channel, please go to that description box, hit the link in the description box and hit that subscribe button so that you guys can continue to show her love. It is greatly appreciated. She puts out great content. Besides just the Nick Bosa, she puts out other great content. So make sure you guys check it out. I have to ask you before we get into anything 49ers related, Coach Desi, as you let us know on last week's show about your husband, let us know how this whole situation's going with his team losing last week to the Chiefs.
It was rough. It was rough. I actually decided to go. I put a tweet out there that was like, should I stay at home and watch the Ravens game with my husband, or should I go to a watch party? And the results were exactly 50-50. It was zero help. So
I hate when that happens.
So I went to a watch party and with my mom, and we went down and, we're trying to feel it out, see what we were doing. We get there. It was packed full of Ravens fans. And I'm like, there's no way I just left my house with one Ravens fan to come to this watch party where it's filled with Ravens fans.
Oh, no.
So I was kind of feeling some kind of way about it, but we stuck it out. Game was over and the Niners fans started coming in. They even had like the bump box. It was fantastic. So, but mom couldn't hear very well. So she was kind of feeling some kind of way about being able to listen to the game. So I'm like, let's go. So I'm driving on the road as the Lions come down and just score right out of the gate. And I'm like, okay, we'll get the ball. And it just, I'm just listening to this through the car and I'm getting into my neighborhood right when Moody misses the field goal.
Oh, man.
Let's put it this way. Mom heard everything I said as I was screaming in the car. So I pull in and we get there. And like, my husband's like, he is so not, he doesn't even care. He's like, whatever, like his team's over. His season's over. So I'm sitting there. He falls asleep during the first half of the game. I'm like, oh my gosh. So we obviously pull out the W and, but so there is harmony back in the household. My marriage will not be at risk this year. It was a little rocky there for a little bit, but thanks for caring, Miriah. We're good. It's all good.
Now,
that's very important.
Now, is he rooting for the 49ers? Because, now you kind of want the team that beat your team to get beat. So is he rooting for the Niners now?
He kind of, he said he will, but he's usually the guy that can objectively watch a game. And he'll, like, if there's a good play, if it's a good Mahomes to Kelsey, he'll be like, well, that was a good, and it drives me insane because I don't want to hear about any of that. But, but it is what it is. He's a good sport. He is objective. He's a good dude, but he's not going to be like super pro 49ers, but he will definitely support me now that he needs to.
We'll take it, I guess. So those that normally watch the Two Goat Show, you know that it's normally on Thursdays. This week we have it on Friday because the wonderful Steph has been traveling. She's been out there working. So we gotta hit that first. What's your overall experience in mobile this year? And how was the Senior Bowl?
Yeah, it was great. I love Mobile. It's a great city. And the Senior Bowl was awesome. I think there's some great prospects there. Like Senior Bowl for me, because I don't really watch college football all that much, is like my first introduction to a lot of these prospects. And so the Senior Bowl does a great job of, scouting some of the top prospects in the upcoming draft and having them, at this Senior Bowl week, right? And so getting to see them practice with each other is pretty cool. Getting to see the one-on-ones is one of my favorite, parts of it all, seeing the one-on-ones, the team periods that are going up against each other. And yeah, shout out Johnny as well because he was there. Wayne was out there as well. So we had some good like 49ers coverage. I know everyone wants to know about the offensive linemen. There's a few guys, that definitely stood out. And I'll just say, I feel like some defensive linemen stood out as well. So it wouldn't surprise me either if the 49ers went that route at some point, just because, they can't resist. But yeah, I did see a few like 49ers personnel out there. I always try to keep my eye on who they're looking at. Of course, throughout the course of, the couple of days of practice, they're going to look at everyone. But I really only noticed them on the field on Thursday, so yesterday. And one of them, their national scout, was taking a look at the offensive lineman. He was like up close watching them. Then I'm trying to remember what his actual title is, but he's like one of the. I didn't see Tariq. I saw Tariq Ahmad Wednesday, but their assistant director of college scouting, Justin Chabot, was keeping a real close eye on, I believe it was the linebackers and safeties as well. And then, of course, they had eyes on defensive line too. So, yeah, they were kind of all over, all hands on deck, So it's going to be interesting to see, as we get more reports on who the 49ers are interested in. I didn't ask any like players who they met with. Like if you do ask them at the Senior Bowl, they will say they've met with all 32 teams because it's the way that the Senior Bowl sets it up. Like they give every prospect an opportunity to meet with all 32 teams, kind of similar to the combine. So just keep that in mind. The 49ers have met with like all of those guys. But we might hear more about who the 49ers are maybe like more interested in. Just a little tidbit. I'm not going to put this out on Twitter quite yet, but someone told me that John Lynch loves Cedric Gray. He's a linebacker. I don't know too much about him yet, right? Because this is like my first introduction to a lot of these prospects, but I definitely made note of it, and I've been saying it on my YouTube, just haven't shared it on Twitter yet. Keeping that one close to the vest for a later time, but yeah. So there's a lot of guys that showed out, and on my YouTube, you guys could check out some of the clips that I put up. You guys can see some of the 1-on-1s, the 11-on-11s. Yeah, so if there's a guy you guys were interested in, check those out, and I'm sure you can see some of those plays. By the way, Luke McCaffrey, Brendan Rice, we're both out there. Yeah, what do you want to know?
Let us know what you got to tell us.
Okay, so
obviously 49er fans want to know about them. You got McCaffrey's little brother, and obviously Jerry Rice's son, both were there. So what let us know how they were doing. I saw a lot of clips on McCaffrey.
I like Luke McCaffrey. I really like Luke McCaffrey. He projects as a slot receiver, in the NFL. That's pretty much what his role will be, just due to his size and all that. But he comes from that family line. They're so good at route running, things like that, even blocking. You saw those things, in the Senior Bowl. And so you can just tell he's gonna fall right in line with all the other McCaffreys. I personally liked Luke McCaffrey, what I saw from him, a little more than I liked Brendan Rice. Brendan Rice, though, projects to be more of a all-around receiver. He has nice size. Like his size does remind me of Jerry because he has that like short torso and long legs. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so he has that similar build. And Jerry was saying like he's fast and all that. But I don't know. I just wasn't seeing like crisp route running from Brendan. So that's the thing that I think was kind of lacking. I would have liked to see more. The first couple of days of practice, like there were some drops.
Yeah, I was surprised from the videos that I saw out there of him. Like very, very surprised. Like I thought, coming from the greatest of all time, like, somebody that we know their work ethic is beyond, right? Like somebody out there running that hill and all that crazy shit that he used to do. Like I thought his sons like would be on, like how the McCaffrey line is. Like that's how I was expecting to see Jerry Rice's son. And I was very, very surprised from what I saw out there the first couple days anyway.
I'll say this though, you're gonna see a lot of hype about Brendan Rice just because of who he is. And I've already seen
Exactly.
people say like he was great out here, but like he had a great day 3 of practice, and I don't know what he'll do in the game. Like he certainly still has a chance to, turn his week around with a strong showing in the game on Saturday. But I would have liked to see more. And I mean, at the same time, the Senior Bowl is just a Senior Bowl. He has all the tape from USC that teams can look at, and usually that should hold more weight than just a few weeks of practice. But I came out of the week liking Luke McCaffrey and what I saw from him. He was heavily targeted in the one-on-ones. He just looks very reliable. Also posted a clip of him finishing off a pancake block. He was driving dude to the ground after the whistle. Those are the things you love to see from a player. And I got a chance I didn't ask him any questions personally, but I was right in front of him as he was like answering questions. He's very well spoken, and just like all the McCaffreys, right? Like they just have all the answers. So yeah, I mean it was cool though to see all these prospects, and definitely going to keep an eye on a few of these guys in the coming months.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of Brendan Rice when he was at USC. I don't watch a lot of college either, but this year, because on my show, Girlfriends in Football, I do have one of my co-hosts. She's a diehard Florida State football fan, so she had a tremendous year at Florida State, and so there was a lot of talk about college football, and I did start to watch a little bit. Also, the Deion Sanders effect, right? I watched some of the Colorado games, so I did watch a little bit, and I think I agree with you, Steph. There was just some element of, I don't want to go so far as to say magic, but there was just some kind of something missing with Rice. Yeah. It wasn't like a standout. Like if his name didn't say Rice on the back of it, he would kind of probably get a little lost in the mix. I didn't think there was something that really stood out in terms of that, which Jerry Rice is like my all-time favorite 49er. So it's tough for me to say that, but I think that's a fair assessment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shout out Gammon.
Yes.
And before I read this, I want to say shout out to you anyway, Gammon, because you're always, in the chat during this show, always showing
Gammon's
so much support to us. And, I see you. It is greatly appreciated. So thank you so much. Says, is there a chance to get McCaffrey's mom on this show before the Super Bowl? And then he had said in a comment, down below that, on with us, us three. I mean, there isn't very much time between now and the Super Bowl, but I'm sure if the celebrity Steph were to reach out to McCaffrey's mom, might be something that we could put into the works.
I'm not opposed to shooting my shot. I think last week I mentioned, I DM'd Kristen Juszczyk, but I haven't gotten anything back from her. Her DMs are probably on fire, but I'll shoot my shot. If she has
who
an
we need
Instagram
on here?
Twitter.
I love McCaffrey's mom, but how cute was Ayuk's mom?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
Both
I
of his
love her.
parents were
she's
so
awesome.
adorable.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to have, like that. Like she just was so in the moment. Like I think she was my favorite person to watch in the celebration.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
She was great. Yeah. But shout out Gammon. Thank you so much. So give us a couple more players that maybe stood out to you that you think would be on the 49ers, somebody that we need, maybe offensive line or defensive line, or, somebody that you think might be on the 49ers radar. I know that you mentioned, Cedric Gray, but, maybe some other guys that stood out to you.
I mean, some guys that stood out may not be there at 32, but like I'll mention them anyway. Like Latu, I don't know how to say his first name, and I don't know. I was trying to figure out if he was related to Cameron Latu.
I keep hearing a lot about him, and I've been wondering that same thing too.
Latu Latu from UCLA. He's a pass rusher. the thing with him is his like he's been knocked for his size because he's a little thinner than most pass rushers would be, but he was winning left and right in one-on-ones and 11-on-11s. Like he was very dominant. There was one particular, I believe it was in the one-on-one reps. I forget what move he started off with, but the offensive lineman countered his move, and then Latu countered the counter and won the rep.
That,
so
yeah.
So guys that have like obviously he has a big what are they like treasure chest of moves. I forget what the cliche is, but he has a arsenal. He has a big arsenal of pass rush moves that he can go to, and clearly he can win with regardless of his size. So that's one guy that definitely stood out to me. As far as the offensive lineman, like I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. Pooney from Kansas, I think it's Pooney. I wouldn't think it's puny. So it's Pooney. Hold on, I'm trying to get the first name. Dominic Pooney from Kansas. He was lining up all over the line, so definitely very versatile. Just not sure like where he'd fit in best, like at the next level, right? But just the fact that one, he's willing to do it, and two, he seems to have a skill set that coaches kind of want to experiment and see where he would fit a little better. I think is a good sign that he could probably handle a lot of different positions on the offensive line. Fuaga he's from Oregon State, so he was like one of the main guys that even going into the practices was like he's one of the top guys here as far as offensive linemen go. So he definitely did help himself out as well. Let me talk about some of the defensive linemen. There's one guy I really liked. Shout out Wayne because he brought up his get off, and he's I think he was working from inside and the outside, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just trying to. His name is
Shout out Breezy.
Yeah, shout out Breezy. And I don't have everyone's names like memorized yet, so apologies for that as well.
We don't expect you to.
I'm trying to find his name. His Fisk, Braden Fisk from Florida State. He was 55. So if you guys watch my clips, look for 55 from the American team. His get off was so impressive that as soon as the center would move, you see his like I literally watched one of the clips back in like slow-mo, and you see him move just as the center is moving as well. Like he was the first guy to move on the defensive line. So his get off was really impressive. Let's see.
Where was he on the line? Is he a tackle?
I saw him both as a defensive tackle and on the outside. So he did both. Then there's Devondre Sweat was a guy, a lot of people mentioned he had a good day. Darius Robinson was another guy that I think helped his stock out. As far as the corners go, I came to like a couple of guys out of the cornerback group. One of them, Andrew Phillips from Kentucky. He was like more on the smaller side, but he's a slot corner. He plays a lot bigger than his size would suggest. And even in reps, one-on-one reps he had with bigger receivers, like he was holding his own. I love to see that. To me, that shows like a certain degree of like what the mental factor, the confidence,
right.
Got to have those things if you're going up against those bigger dudes. So that impressed me about him. And he seemed like he had like good technique as well. Let's see. Jarvis Brownlee was another guy as far as the corners that stood out. And maybe the biggest guy of the week that I thought, stood out was Toledo corner Quinion Mitchell. I mean, he was making plays left and right. So definitely one. Also, Chow, I think that's how you say his first name, Chow Smith-Wade of Washington State. He had some nice plays as well.
The last guy that you mentioned, is he outside or he's a slot?
Smith-Wade?
No, the one before that. The one that you said.
Oh, Quinion Mitchell. I think he'd be more of an outside guy. Yeah, but Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys. I also want to just go back and rewatch like all the clips that I recorded as well, and just I want to put together like a little montage of like the best plays. Um, but yeah, definitely some guys to keep tabs on.
Yeah,
I'm
so make sure
interested.
you guys.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm interested in, I don't want to say it, left tackle.
Oh yeah, I mean we have to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as far as like the tackles go, the way that they're, I think there's a few guys, and then the way that they're listed on the roster, I don't know who's like specifically a tackle off the top of my head. But there's definitely a lot of guys. It's a very deep offensive line class, in
Well, that's
particular
good.
for tackles. So there's going to be someone there for the 49. I wouldn't be surprised if they double dip in this class when it comes to the offensive line or tackles.
That's good.
Perfect.
Make sure you guys are, check out those videos. Steph has them on her YouTube channel, so you can go through. I see people saying, David said, I'm not ready for off-season talk yet. Well, after the
Yeah, a lot
Super
of
Bowl's
people were
over, you
saying
can
that.
go
Like,
there and
don't
tune
jinx
into the
it.
videos. They'll be there. So make sure you guys check it out. We don't pick the order that this stuff falls in. So Senior Bowl was this week. So Senior Bowl talk we have. But yeah, I'm definitely ready for, Super Bowl as well. But there's only 2 teams left. So the other chumps, they have to have something to do. So that's why they start this stuff already. Luckily, we're not one of them though. So Jed, and as we mentioned earlier, John Lynch talked the last 2 days. So I kind of wanted to go through and talk about a couple things that they talked about. I thought it was very, especially with Jed, he said some things that he kind of let out there that was quite interesting. I want to start off with probably one of the biggest 2 major things that I want to talk about, but probably one of the biggest things. And we hadn't really known like a timeline or how any of this stuff went down, and that's with the whole quarterback situation, right? Like, was Brock their guy? Did they have a competition? A lot of people said no, there was never a competition. So we had never, as fans, we're not in there. We don't know how stuff went down. Jed kind of was asked about, I think he was talking about Kyle and Kyle being honest. And he went on to say that when they drafted, so not even this last season, off season, when supposedly there was supposed to be, a competition between him and Trey, but the year before when Brock was just a rookie, Jed said that Kyle went to him and told him that Brock was the best quarterback on the roster. And Jed said, it takes a real honest coach to be able to come to you and tell you that, because you're paying one guy, 20 something million, whatever Jimmy was making. And then you spent, all this draft capital on this other guy that you drafted, 3rd overall. And then you're coming to him, telling him that, hey, the best quarterback on our roster is the guy that we drafted the last pick in the draft, he said, but that, Kyle is like, he's not going to change the depth chart, that he wanted to let everything play out, how it played out. And, so they went in, and obviously with Trey as the number 1, Jimmy as the number 2, Brock as the number 3. But that whole time, Kyle had already known that, he even said that he said Brock will be our guy at some point. Like, so he already knew that during training camp, during the preseason of Brock being a rookie, that Brock was going to be the guy at some point, which I thought was very telling. And Brock ends up, getting his chance due to injury, and it all played out, and Brock was the guy. So this whole last offseason, like I said, the whole competition thing, the whole with Trey Lance, I think that it would have went a lot different had we known, if Brock had never got that whole injury situation. If Brock had never got hurt, I think they probably would have traded Trey way before the time that they did. but they had to know, okay, Brock's going to be ready. And, you know, like if we need Trey to roll into the season, if Brock's not going to say Brock wasn't going to be ready till week 4, you know, like you needed Trey. And, you know, I think it's very telling that, like, I always talk about, like, you can tell Kyle, like, he never talked good about a quarterback before, unless it was Kirk Cousins. And he's in there glowing, talking about Brock Purdy all the time. You saw after the end of this Lions game, the first thing they did was run to each other and hug each other. Like, I never seen Kyle like that before in my life. So kind of give me your guys' thoughts when, you know, you hear Jed let it out that Brock's been Kyle's guy since he was drafted.
Yeah, I think for one, it tells me they have a great working relationship, that Kyle Shanahan feels that he could even share that to him, because that is big. Like, that is risky, like, you know, for how much they had invested in the other 2 quarterbacks, both in draft picks and money. I think to be able to, one, feel that strongly, and to not be afraid to tell your owner about that. I think that's huge. But I think it also tells you how convincing and how confident they were in Brock Purdy even then, to even want to say that. Like, because I mean, look, I think we know now, watching it all play out and seeing Brock Purdy for as long as we have, I think we know that he's better than both of those guys. But for Kyle to know it almost instantaneously in a training camp, seeing all of them together on the same field, operating the same offense and all that, I mean, that tells us all we need to know. And I think now it's not so surprising when you hear about it, right? Like, because we've seen it with our own 2 eyes now, and Brock has made everyone a believer at some point. Some people are a little slower, you know, than others at getting to the end thought, but everyone, I think, will end up being a believer. And I think that's just because of what he's shown throughout all this. It's a mental thing. It's how he goes out there and operates the offense. It's a lot of different things, and he's a franchise quarterback, man. I truly think that.
This whole thing's fascinating to me. Like, you think back to that year, isn't that the year? So this was the year after the Bucks won the Super Bowl. So Brady was there was that whole Brady talk. Well, Brady joined the 49ers. You had Jimmy coming off of the shoulder thing, right? Where we thought he wasn't even going to be a 49er. And then suddenly he is. And you're telling me when all this stuff's going on, you already knew that Brock was the guy. Like, it's amazing, because that was just such a shit show from a quarterback perspective. And then, you know, the way that it played out was just amazing. And I think Jimmy G should be thankful, right? Because he was not getting any kind of response for a job at that time. And so really the 49ers did him a great service by keeping him on that year, letting him recover. And then look at the contract he got, excuse me, with the Raiders, right? So, I mean, I love that karma. Put that karma out there, you know, like what you put out, you get back. So, you know, it's fascinating. I feel like that's also what happened to me when I finally saw Brock really hit the field. It was love at first sight. It was like, boom, it just fits. It just is. And I could not explain why I felt that way. It was just something about the kid where he just had this, people said it a lot, moxie, and this determination and this confidence. And just, you could tell it was more than just like, it's a deep rooted confidence that you can't shake. And I was like, this kid's got something. And so it's not really a surprise, but just going back to all the things that were going on at that time, it's just insane that amongst all that craziness in Kyle's head, he had some sort of like peace in all of it. I was just like, whatever. Here we all are going crazy with, it's Trey Lance.
Oh
no,
my
it's
gosh.
no, it's, you know, like, and
The arguments we could have avoided.
Yeah, man.
That's awesome.
Those were some terrible off seasons. Like,
Dark
holy
days.
smokes. Something that kind of wraps in with that I thought was interesting before we get into the next thing, and that was, they had talked about, I think it was it John? No, it was Jed that brought this up, and that was, he said that during the preseason, sometime he always brings in the families, the parents of the draft class, and he said, he shows them around the facility and kind of, talks to them and lets them know, like what the 49ers are about and, all that kind of stuff. And he said that during that, he walks into the room and that Purdy's parents, which he didn't know they were Purdy's parents at the time, but that they were sitting there and that they were taking notes on everything. That he said they were intent, like on getting like every detail of everything that they could possibly find out, and Jed said that he went over and he was like, hey, whose parents are those, and they're like, oh, that's Purdy's parents. And Jed's like, I found that, kind of, interesting that here we have, the guy that we spent all this draft capital on, as a quarterback. We have a guy that's, taking the team, to the Super Bowl on the squad, or been a part of the Super Bowl team, and all this. He's still on the team. And yet the third string quarterback's parents are in here, like, taking notes and more intent than anybody else's parents, and it's like where Purdy gets it from. Like, they already had the confidence that this is going to be my son's team, let me figure out what's going on in this place, and like, who cares? Like, we don't care who else is on the team, like, you guys drafted my son and that's all he needed, and like, I found that was awesome when Jed told that, and I like, you totally get that from Purdy's parents. Like, they just seem like so supportive in everything, like, like, I still go back to like Purdy's first, couple games or whatever, when they're like in the stands crying and, like, it's just, I love that type of stuff. Like, it's awesome to see that. The next thing that kind of, caught my eye or caught my ear when he said it, he was talking about the CMC trade. And he said that, usually that Kyle wants to invest, heavily on the defensive side with draft picks or, with free agents or whatnot. And he said, because Kyle knows that he's going to spend more time with the offense. So get the defense, all the players they need. And, I'll be able to work with whoever we get on the offense because, he thinks he's that good. But when it came to CMC, I guess Jed said that Kyle was kind of, iffy about spending that much draft capital, on a running back, and that Jed York and John Lynch were the ones that were a full go all in on it. And I found that very, very interesting because we go back and like the whole history of the running back position since Kyle's been here has been crazy. You talk about paper jet airplane, that whole fiasco, and just, spending draft capital on running backs that third round that don't work. You're getting undrafted guys that do better. Raheem Mostert that was tossed around the league like, garbage, and came here and was a star for us, in that Super Bowl run. And it's just like the running back position's been crazy. And you would think, I would think, and I was thinking that, okay, Kyle was like, get CMC. Like, that's the guy I need to get this offense, to its max potential. We know that we can plug him in, play him, and this offense is going to be like the perfect guy, right, for it. Well, no, Kyle's like, oh, is that too much draft capital to spend on CMC? I'm like, what? And, like, it just goes back to show how much Jed, too, has been so supportive of everything that John and Kyle have done. Like, Kyle tells us all the time, yeah, I just went to Jed and he says, well, if that's what you guys feel is the right thing, I'm behind you. We know Jed's history with the last 3 head coaches prior, right? And it's like Kyle got his guy in Purdy. Jed got his guy in Shanny, because Jed goes on to say that he can't say that he's enjoyed working with anyone as much as he's enjoyed working with Kyle Shanahan. What do you guys think about all that?
That's a lot to unpack, but yeah, I mean, I think as far as Kyle being a little skeptical of the Christian McCaffrey trade, I don't know. Maybe he gave the C- grade, and it wasn't ESPN.
Remember everybody
But
talking about, oh, Kyle has ties to CMC. He babysat him. Kyle wanted this guy and blah, blah, blah. Like, people just pull these stories out of their ass or what?
yeah, for one, I think that proves that. But it's kind of crazy to me that he wouldn't want. Okay, well, it's not that he didn't want CMC, but it's just that he thought it was too much to give up for CMC, which is fair, and those are different things. I don't know. Maybe they were worried because of how much they had given up for Trey, and then that didn't work out. So I don't know. Maybe that gave him some pause. But yeah, I mean, obviously the running back position needed some help post Raheem Mostert, and even before then, like you said, it was crazy. There was a lot of guys that they just never hit on. And it was more of the same even after McCaffrey got drafted. Like, I mean, sorry, even after he got traded to the 49ers, some like TDP, like he's on the practice squad now, but he was cut at some point this season, right? Like, there's so many guys you can look at and be like, that did not work out. I think it's interesting that Kyle Shanahan basically says, I can work with less. And is just like allocate everything to the defense.
Yeah.
So maybe he thought it was a bit of a slight that, you know, you're saying I need Christian kind of thing. I don't need him. But I mean, he's transformed this offense. I mean, he's a big part of why the 49ers are where they are today. And I think it's a great trade, especially even more so in hindsight, because he's with the team till 2026. I mean,
yes.
He's young.
And he's such a freaking stud, I swear, man.
Oh yeah, he's worth all that more.
I'll throw this out there. So that's kind of how I got into podcasting, was around that time, is right when I started. I had met Eric Crocker and started to do stuff on his show, and they asked me about the Christian McCaffrey trade. And that's actually how I got on Locked On 49ers as well, is because I honestly, when I look back, because everybody kept talking about the injuries, and you know, I looked at his injuries and I was like, guys, this is not scary. Like, it was 2020, the year where we had no preseason. Everybody got injured. It was the highest amount of injuries the NFL had ever had. And he happened to have fallen into that. So I think if you pull that year out, he really is golden. Like, I'm like, this is like a great trade. So I'm glad he did do well, so I didn't have to eat those words. But the other thought that I would have, Miriah, is there's such a close tie there, like family, like babysitting, like it goes way back, right? So there's a certain level of expectation maybe Kyle felt too. Like, you bring somebody in like that, like you're responsible for them now, responsible for his career, responsible for his, you know, God forbid he gets injured. Like, you know, there's a lot that weighs in on that. And so there may have been some hesitancy in terms of that as well, just from like, you know, it's like if I have a business and then like my best friend's son wants to work for me, it's like, do I want that? Like,
yeah.
If it doesn't work out, it could be really bad. So, you know, there's that side of it potentially too. But it's been absolutely amazing. So
yeah, I think, you know, that's one of the, if I think back on the 49ers move that's made me the happiest in probably the last 15 years, maybe, it was that trade for CMC. When that news came, I still remember, you know, the notification coming across my phone. 49ers trade for CMC. And I'm like, is this a prank? Like, is this for real? You know, and I'm like going, like checking every single source that I know, you know, to check, like to make sure it was for real, you know, and I was just like, oh my God, like I was, you know, we're not used, like they said, you know, that we make all these moves for the defense. You're not used to them trading for like a star running back, the best running back in the NFL. Like my team's doing that. What? And man, he has been worth every penny, like every single penny and then some. Like, he has been such a stud, I swear. and shout out chat. We appreciate all of you guys coming through. 49ers Drive had said, shout out to Jed for making me kind of like him again. And, one more thing, and we'll move off of Jed. And that was, they asked him about who was, from the staff and whatever going to the Super Bowl. And, he's pretty much sending everybody there to the Super Bowl. He said the staff, the interns, a lot of alumni, multiple team jets worth of people. And, I remember them doing that in 2019 too, because they talked about how it takes every, that without not, one single person missing from that, organization, like you wouldn't have everybody that got you to the point where you were at, so it's like that was their way of showing them that, hey, like we care, we're thankful, we appreciate you guys, and it seems like such a, oh yeah, like people are like, oh, I saw Schefter or one of them tweet about it, and the comments were like, oh well, every team does this, and they're like, no, every team doesn't do this. So people, I think, just take it for granted, or expect that the teams do this, and not every NFL team does that. Like not every NFL team feeds their players the way that they should, or has the facilities that they need for these players. Like the 49ers are a first class organization, and it continues to show through and through and through. I think back to those grades when the players for the NFLPA or whatever filled out, about remember when they filled the grades out about their workrooms, about their tubs and their food and the way they treat their families, and all that shit. And the Arizona Cardinals got like an F because, they treat their people like shit. They don't have showers for them and shit, like all kinds of stuff. Like, people just expect, oh, well, it's an NFL team, so they take care of their players. And no, that's not always necessarily the truth. So shout out to Jed and the 49ers. Let's see what we have for the wonderful John Lynch. Oh, so they asked him about Adam Peters and replacing. I'll talk about two different people that work for the 49ers right now, and then I'll turn it over to you ladies. So yeah, the first one, Adam Peters, and John Lynch said pretty much that they're excited. He has a really good plan in place. They're promoting from within, but he doesn't want to make it about that right now. He wants to, it's about the Super Bowl. So he's waiting till, that's all done and over with before they make the announcements for that. So I'm very interested to see, who that ends up being. If you guys have any guesses who you think. They also asked him, and, there's a rumor that was released. And of course, if the teams that are in the Super Bowl, if one of the coaches for those teams get a job, they don't announce it till after the Super Bowl is over. So he was asked, and the rumor was going around about Clint Kubiak becoming the OC of the Saints. And John Lynch pretty much said that he won't speak on that. So what do you guys think about that? Like, I'm awesome. I'm all for, people getting promotions, all that. He is our pass game coordinator. Who do you think they end up replacing him with? Maybe Brian Greasy, his younger brother Clay also works on the team with another, who knows what his position is, but something to do with that as well. So I was thinking maybe one of those. Like, I think that would be awesome for Brian Greasy. I think he's done a great job from all accounts. Like, Jimmy was playing better under him. Purdy's been great under him. For what it's worth, I mean, Trey Lance had, glowing reviews of him as well. So yeah, what do you guys kind of feel about the Adam Peters replacement and Clint Kubiak getting the Saints OC job after only 1 year of being our quarterback's coach, and he's already getting an OC job?
Yeah, do they have any more Kubiak or Slowick siblings? Because we're running out of them. We had a bunch and we're running out. But, I think a lot of the reason that they're getting attention, one, it's because of the organization they're in. A lot of people look at what the 49ers are doing, what they've done, how their coaches have excelled in other areas, other teams. and they see that, they want that. That's totally understandable. Also, it's the name because the siblings have done so well, the Kubiaks and the Slowiks, so they get a lot of interest because of that as well. So yeah, I mean, as far as replacements, I think two of the people you mentioned, Miriah, make a lot of sense. I think Greasy could definitely step into that role. It would just be a bit of an expanded role for him. I mean, he could still be the quarterback coach and be the passing game coordinator. And yeah, to me, I think that's probably the shoe-in replacement. The other one you mentioned, Clay, was it Clay? Yeah, Clay,
Yeah.
right? Clay Kubiak. So yeah, you can do that as well. The good thing is the 49ers have options, as they always do, in-house, right? And as far as going back to the Adam Peters replacement, I think Tariq Ahmad is the shoe-in. And for a while now, they've known that Adam Peters was eventually going to leave. Like, promoting him to assistant GM last year was more so, we want to keep you around for one more year. Like, will you accept this title? And it worked out in the 49ers' favor, but they have known for at least the last 2 years that he would eventually no longer be with the team. So, I mean, they've had to have a plan in place. And I think that is Tariq Ahmad, because if you look at the 49ers draft content, what they put on their website, their YouTube, last season, you start seeing his face a little bit more. And there was a interview video that they put on their YouTube and their site, with the three of them, Lynch, Adam Peters, and Ahmad. And to me, it was like Ahmad was shadowing, Adam Peters to eventually take on that role, see what it's like to be more front facing. So to me, he's the shoe-in right now. He's the director of college scouting. So he's one of the higher ups in terms of like the scouting department. And of course, he's worked with Adam Peters,
Right.
a lot. So he knows what the role takes, I'm sure. And, I'm sure they're great friends. So, if he needs to lean on him for anything, I'm sure he can text him, call him up. But that would be my pick and my guess.
I think I would agree. But am I tripping, or did I see something that Greasy was going to be getting? Was somebody eyeing him?
I hadn't
he
seen
did.
anything.
Like, he might have gotten some interest, or just like people have mentioned him, but I don't think there's been anything. I don't know if he's interviewed with anyone.
Okay, because I would rather keep him in house, move him up, and then make sure he doesn't go anywhere else, because that's
Clay might end up going to the Saints too with his brother. Who knows?
right.
If he gets a promotion to go over there as assistant OC, whatever the hell. They just make up positions. Who knows?
Got it.
You have any other thoughts on those guys? Nope. All right. I find it funny. They must be writing an article or something on Trent Williams, because every single person that's interviewed the last 2 days has been asked about Trent Williams' locker situation. For those that don't know, he has 2 lockers in the 49ers locker room, and they're pretty much kind of like by themselves. There's nobody on either side. They're like standalone there. And he has it like roped off, like it's a club situation. Like he's already ready, like he's in Vegas there. He has like a shoe rack with all his shoes. So 2 lockers worth of clothes, like tons of stuff there. Like it's his closet at home. So everybody that's gone up there to talk has been asked how about, oh, I'm sure you guys have seen Trent Williams' locker situation. Like they're asked it just seems like they're waiting for somebody to be like, yeah, I do have a problem with that. Like what? Like Kittle's like, yeah, I would like an extra locker, but that's Trent Williams. So who's going to tell him, hey, no, you can't have, like, he's a silverback gorilla. He has a gorilla tattooed on him. Nobody's going to go tell him anything. Like, that's kind of interesting there. So I'm waiting for some big article about Trent Williams to come out, because they also asked, I think it was Kittle and somebody else, maybe Fred, or I don't remember, but about Trent Williams, making it finally to the Super Bowl, and a lot's been made that the guys now in their interviews have said, when they first went to the Super Bowl in 2019, a lot of them were rookies, in their first, second year, right? And that they didn't know any better. So they were like, hey, we're getting to the Super Bowl already in our first year or whatever. Like, this is easy. Like, we're going to get here again, And then they come out to realize really soon that, it's damn hard to get to the Super Bowl. And, not teams don't just do it every year. Like, it's not just this easy thing, right? And they kind of had taken it for granted. And now, now they know. And so they were kind of asked about Trent. Like, Trent's been in the league now 14 years and he's just getting to his first Super Bowl. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like something about Trent Williams coming out, because it seemed like there was a lot of questions directed towards Trent Williams. What do you guys think? Because like, we know that Trent's the best of the best, right, at his position. He, like, how we talked about a couple weeks ago about him winning, how many Pro Bowls or all pros in a row. And that, that's when he announced that he would be coming back next season because he wants to break, that record. What do you think something like that, like, has, if Trent Williams were to retire, right, and say he don't have a Super Bowl win on there, compared to Trent Williams retiring and having a Super Bowl win on there, all his accomplishments and everything that he's done in the NFL, do you think that plays a big part in what Trent Williams' career looks like when he retires? Like, how much bearing do you think that has on somebody's, like, whole career?
It's hard to say in the moment. I think it's easy to say that it doesn't have a lot of bearing because we've seen Trent Williams and we know how great he is. The more years you get removed, like let's say in a decade or two, I think then like there's people who aren't going to remember how great Trent Williams was, and that's a shame, right? But there's going to be people who see that he didn't have a Super Bowl and hold that against him, or think like, man, he must not have been that guy, or something like that.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes also to like Hall of Fame and what they look at. I think Trent Williams is he's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and he's going to get it pretty like recent after his retirement, whenever that is.
Like first ballot, you think?
Yeah, like I think it's going to be a quick process for him. Like he's going to retire.
I think
however many years is like the minimum. Yeah, I think he'll be in. But let's just say, like, if this wasn't one of those scenarios, sometimes they look at like Super Bowl, and if you were able to get that. But no, I mean, I think his legacy in the NFL has been, solidified. But I think he, for personal reasons, obviously any player wants to get that Super Bowl, and it means a lot to the player. And for a player as great as Trent Williams is, I think it means more, because it wouldn't surprise me if him as a player thinks, this is how I solidify my legacy, right?
Right.
So yeah, I think we all want that for him, just like we wanted that for Joe Staley.
I know.
A lot of those guys, that
like I wanted him to get a Super Bowl so bad, like
right. Yeah, so I think it's kind of the same thing, but I think how long Trent Williams has been good, basically his entire career. I think that speaks for itself.
Yeah, I agree. There's no question. I mean, the Super Bowl is not going to be determined whether this guy gets in or not. He's got a body of work that is just unmatched. His respect throughout the entire NFL is bar none.
Yeah.
So I don't think it does, but I want it for him, probably maybe more than any other player ever. I absolutely love Trent. I've been one that said, when we started losing those games, it was Trent was our offense runs through the left side. It pains me to think about ever having anybody else play that position for us following this. He is that big of an impact. He is a pillar of this 49er offense, and it doesn't work without him, not in the same way. So I don't think it bars, but like you said, for his personal, accolades, it's a team win, and it just means so much more for you guys to lock that in together as a group. It means so much, and for the brotherhood, and I want that for them all.
Yeah, another player where, this game like has, of course it means a lot to everybody, but like somebody too that John Lynch talked about, and that was Mooney Ward. He has the opportunity to win a Super Bowl on both of these teams. Obviously he won a Super Bowl against us with the Chiefs. We now have him on our side, which is very nice. John Lynch talked about him and said that he was like, I love that guy. He said there's an innocence about him that, like he said he walks around, but John Lynch is trying to tell him, like, you need to walk around like you're somebody special, like, because you're a special player. He said that a mixture of Mooney's size and length mixed with his smarts, mixed with his competitiveness, whatever, equals special, and he said that Mooney Ward started this season he calls him John Lynch, like, all together, and he said that nobody else really calls him like by his first and last name together. And he told Mooney, well, you started doing that this season, and now you're all pro, you made the Pro Bowl, whatever. So, this is the best season pretty much of your career. So keep calling me John Lynch, because that seems to be working. And I just thought it was so funny because, Mooney, he's out there and he plays like with this confidentness, like he's a dog out there, like he's confident. Nobody's gonna say or do shit to him to bring him off his game, right? And to know that, like, behind the scenes, like, John Lynch is telling him, like, you need to walk around like you're more confident, like you're the man, because you are the man, So I thought that was pretty cool. Like, and they asked him, like, what do you mean about an innocence about him? And he went on to talk about, how Mooney is with his son. I think it's a son, and or his children or whatever. And, just like that, he's just like this sweet, like, family guy. And, like, they have such great conversations, and, like, went on to say a lot of great things about him. And I just thought that was awesome. How do you think, like, how much of a difference do you think this makes between, having Mooney Ward on this team compared to last year? I mean, not last year, but in 2019, with our corner situation and everything. Do you think, like, this helps the 49ers in this situation? Like, what do you think Mooney Ward means to this team?
I mean, I think he's meant a lot. And I think part of the reason that Lenore has kind of, become who he is, and he has a swagger too. He has a confidence to him. I think when you see a guy like Mooney Ward and see how he carries himself, you kind of want to do the same. So I feel like a lot of what Lenore has grown into is because of Mooney Ward as well. I mean, it's been huge to have a guy on the back end who is so reliable, who is as close to lockdown as lockdown is. I mean, he's shadowed guys this season. It's so valuable to have someone like that on your team. So, I mean, I think it's been huge. I think pairing him with Steve Wilkes has been awesome as well, because as we know, Steve Wilkes more of a secondary guy. So I think that's kind of worked out for him. But yeah, it's big, and it's big to have that, like, leadership in that group in the secondary. I think he's kind of helping lead the way.
Yeah, before you go, real quick, Mooney had talked about, Wilkes this week too, talking about how he loves Wilkes. That Mooney knows that this is the best year so far of his career, and he does credit a lot of that to Wilkes, and said that he, has a great relationship with Wilkes. So, as much as people are talking about fire Wilkes if we lose this game and yada, 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 the players, I know, especially that back end, really values what Steve Wilkes brings to this team.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I learned a lot about Mooney listening to, I think it was Eric Armstead. He was a guest on Eric Armstead's podcast, and just absolutely fell in love with this guy. And it makes sense what John Lynch said about him after I listened to that interview. It's fantastic. He's an incredible athlete, incredible human. You comparing it to the 2019, I mean, Jimmy Ward was the big staple for the secondary. And, when we lost him, I kind of was like, lump in the throat, not sure what we're going to do. And then Huff came out and was everything that you needed Huff to be. And then with Huff going out this year, I think Mooney is filling that role as a leader in the secondary, and really helping to orchestrate what we're seeing get accomplished by, Diamador Lenore, by Gip, by all these other players in the backfield that, really have stepped up in big moments. And so I'm not sure that we can say collectively a comparison between 19 and now, but I think there's no lesser when you compare those two. Without him this year, right? Without him this year, it would be. So he definitely has filled some big shoes there, and certainly happy to have him heading into the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Chat, we appreciate each and every one of you. We do have to get out of here. Steph has another show. She's a celebrity. She has stuff to do. But before we go, at the last minute, Steve-O sneaks one in there. Steve-O, thank you. We appreciate you. Says, we're going to need a Bosa impression on stage after the Super Bowl and a B-Day shout out tomorrow. Happy birthday, Steve-O. We will definitely, if we win the Super Bowl, I will make Steph do an impersonation live on this show. You have it. You have my word. All right. We appreciate you, Steve-O. Thank you so much. Chat, everybody, thank you. Coach Desi, appreciate you. Steph, you're the best. And remember, after I end this, I'm going to put Coach Desi's info in the description of this video. So make sure you guys follow that link. Go and follow her. Subscribe to her show. And yeah, we'll be back next week. And we'll be getting ready for the Super Bowl. Till then, everybody stay safe. Much love. We're out of here.
Peace.